Alrighty, thank you, Todd. Welcome everybody to, I believe this is our 11th episode of FTV. For those of you who are first-time viewers, welcome to our family. And for those of you who have joined us in episode after episode, we see you, we love you, and thank you for helping us fill the void. So just a little bit of background. We started this small little platform basically right when COVID broke out to provide a little platform for our friends, our creative family at a time when we were all distanced and separated and even unable to perform our creative jobs. But as 2020 continues to evolve on us, it feels like each week has become its own wave of change. We are one of many, if not all, the organizations in this country and in this world who are facing this change. And in this moment, we have to decide what we want to do, what we want to be, and how we want to serve our community moving forward. I personally wanted to have this conversation publicly with the team for 4 reasons. One, I want you as our constituents, our supporters, our friends, to see the faces of the people who really make the Seattle Film Summit work, the faces and the voices of the people who have elevated what we've done here. Number 2, I'm hoping that we can provide an example of conversations that all organizations need to be having right now. Number 3, as a middle-aged white male, I want to use this small platform that we have to do whatever I can. It's important for me to no longer be safe, but to be brave. And fourth and finally, I just wanted you, our audience, and our family to have a say in our future. So first off, I just want to apologize. Today's conversation might be a little uncomfortable. It's going to be sloppy. I know I'm going to stumble and I'm going to probably be more awkward than normal. But as I've said, I no longer want to be safe. I want to be brave, and I want to help us as a community move together united. So just on that note, some quick house cleaning. I want to give a huge shout out to AFMX, the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. They partnered with us during COVID. Right now, they have to focus on their festival and the implementation of their festival. But we built a strong partnership with them, and we love them. And Ivan and Genevieve and Kira, they really helped us do what our goal here was, which was to just try to provide support to our community. And you will be seeing them again, rest assured. So let's dive into this. I want to bring in the rest of the team. Todd, can you bring them in? So everybody, these are your directors for the Seattle Film Summit, and I'm just going to go down the line, and I'm going to ask each one of them who they are, what they do creatively, what their role is at the summit, and why they help with the summit. So I'm going to start with you, Lynn. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm Lynn Bohart. I joined the Film Summit last summer, actually late in the summer, and I'm a mystery novelist and a retired foundation executive. So I spent about 35 years in the nonprofit world and then started my own freelance writing company. So I offered myself up to Ben primarily as a writer to help with messaging and press releases and those kinds of things. And then this year took on sponsorships to help underwrite the Film Summit with some companies and individuals that would like to sponsor this great event. So that's why I'm here, and that's kind of what I do in my other life.
Thank you, Lynn. Let's go to Trina. How are you, Trina?
I'm good, Ben. How are you? Well, I'm Trina Griffin, and I am the volunteer hospitality director for the summit. I came on board about 2 years ago with Kara and Lorraine Montas and Kara Stipler, and I just came in to help and fill in the gap where they needed it. And it was a pleasure working with familiar faces and people I'd already gone to school with. And, so it was like being at home and being surrounded by art and film. And then from there, it just kept moving up into different roles of like responsibility, registration, working with distributors as they came in, helping them to listen to filmmakers' pitches and set them in rooms or get them things they needed. And then from last year, I basically took over the whole entire part of that with volunteers, coordinating volunteers, and working with the team, working with the panels, and making sure everybody's needs were met, and working with our event coordinator, Angela, who's an awesome person, amazing, with making sure everything runs smooth so Ben can relax and enjoy the summit.
Thank you for all you've done, Trina, and will continue to do.
Continue to do.
Marissa, I know you didn't want to go first. You're going to go in the middle.
Wow, way to call me out. Hi, I'm Marissa Fujimoto, one of the co-marketing directors with Genevieve Trainer, who can't make it to this this Zoom today, but we miss you. And shout out to Genevieve. Let's see. I've been working with the Seattle Film Summit now for 3 years. Ben, has it been that long? 3 years? You could probably see a lot of my work with some of the social media outreach and all the graphics posts, anything in. I did a lot of the filling the void graphics as well. I'm kind of in charge of the, anything marketing, anything creative that we're pushing out for the film summit, whether that's video production, some of the photos that we've taken, anything programming, all the design stuff. So that's kind of what I do. And as my just regular job, I have my own production company called Sliger Food Creative Media. We've been a company for about 3 years now who does a lot of marketing and commercial work for small to medium-sized businesses. Yeah.
Thank you, Marissa, so much for everything. Chad, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chad Hudson. I came into the summit about 3 years ago, working primarily in marketing and communications, some writing, and came this year into this leading the programming. And who knew that a pandemic and several other things would blow up the programming part of this event? I think Ben secretly knew in the background that that's what was going to go on. But it's been a very interesting and challenging year for us, particularly on the programming side, and that's part of what we're going to be discussing today. When I'm not with the summit, I'm a screenwriter, and I've got 30 years plus in marketing and communications, and do that as a full-time job as well, along with being a parent and a home teacher and all of the other new roles that we've been handed during this very tumultuous time. I'm part of the summit because we are very lucky in the Northwest to have an incredible group of talented creatives and a canvas within this state that is unlike any other. And I'd like to see this state and the creatives within it get a little more attention.
Amen. And last but not least for today, who we love to candidly call our voice of God, Todd Conley, who's our Filling the Void lead producer. You want to say something, Todd?
Well, hello there. Yeah, I'm a Renton native, longtime Seattle resident. I've done a lot of acting and background work in a bunch of Seattle productions, and have an interest in all things tech. So I serve as the tech director for Seattle Film Summit, and love to be part of the discussion.
Thank you all of you guys. As Marissa said, we're missing Genevieve Trainer and we're missing Angela Strecker, who are key components to this team but are unavailable today. You guys all have my utmost appreciation because, as we always laugh about, there's definitely no money in the Seattle Film Summit. The people that you're seeing on this screen.
No money?
What?
Wait, nobody.
I gotta drop off here.
Soon.
I got a call. I got to take a call.
And the fact that you do this without that monetary compensation yet lets me know where your heart is. And I see you guys and I really appreciate you. And anyway, that I would be remiss to not also call out people who have gotten us here that were before you. And we started the summit in 2013, and a friend of mine named Ben James really helped lift this up off the ground. Lorraine Montez, she really helped us find some structure. Jonathan Kesey really helped us connect to Hollywood and get influencers who could see our local content creators. People who join our leadership team every week is Andrea Hayes and Brian Carlin and Angela DeMarco and David Hogan support this, and Heather Pildar Olson and Arthur Raines McNally and Todd. Man, I'm losing all of them. Jeremy, what's Jeremy's last name? I'm going blank here.
Todd?
No, Jeremy. That's you, Chad. Speak. Jeremy, why am I going blank? You just had a baby.
My name's not Jeremy.
No, Jeremy from the green room.
Dodd.
Jeremy Todd is his last
Dodd.
name?
Dodd.
Dodd.
D-O-
I
not
was
Todd.
like, there is no
Dodd.
Jeremy Todd. So
Sorry. No, it's
anyway,
Jeremy you're talking
those are just some names, but there's been dozens who've just tried to build this organization, but basically build our whole community and elevate that community. Real quickly, I just want to tell people why this organization started. And the reason I started in 2013 was I just wanted to bring all the organizations together, no matter whether you were an actor or a writer or a director. Like, we need all those voices in the same rooms constantly to be networking and sharing their expertise and talent. And that was the goal. After lifting that boulder up the hill for many years, I didn't realize till recently why I even do it. And I now know that's more important than ever to express that reason. And for me, I came late to the game as an artist. I didn't start till I was 30. And I had no creative experience. And I was also a mess as a human being. I tell people that, emotionally, I was all over the board. I had no creative energy going on. I had a bad memory. I had a lot of dyslexia going on. And then as I went down that creative path, I found that I was finding some emotional healing. My memory was expanding. The dyslexia was going away. And so I realized that creativity was my roadway to health, whether that be emotional health, physical health, but that creative energy is what healed me. And that's why I keep moving this boulder forward, is I want to provide opportunities for other people to achieve similar healing. But now this changes, right? Now I realize I wanted to elevate creatives, but really what I've been trying to do is just elevate other people. And now we have an opportunity to get better at that. And that's what this conversation is about. So to dive into that pool, I want to start and ask you guys some questions. So far in 2020, we got the murder hornets, we got the Australian wildfires, we've got COVID, we've got the blanket truly being peeled back from institutional racism. We have all these things. So how do we even be creative in this time? How are you guys being creative?
I'll jump in here with something. So the start of 2019 for me personally as a writer was really tough, or 2020 was really tough for me as a writer. I just didn't feel the mojo and the vibe to get out there and really create and write. And about the time that I was starting to feel it coming back, we got hit with the pandemic. And then we got hit with one thing after another after another. And I read a couple of quotes from some top screenwriters in Hollywood that said, it's okay to not create right now. It is okay to create right now, whatever works for you. And that was really important for me to hear and read at that moment, because I was feeling guilty that I wasn't out there creating at a time that I thought, um, you often hear people talk about creating during a time of pain or suffering or joy. Um, and I was hearing people say, you know what, I haven't written since the first of the year, and I'm okay with that. And if you can't, be okay with that too. I think right now it's okay to be in whatever space you're in. And if that means that it's not creating something, that's okay. You're still recording it up here for maybe a more creative point in your life later. So I don't think these moments are going away from us. I think they're just being recorded in our own memories for us to maybe extract or use in some other way later as a creative.
I would say for me, in 2018, I created a piece of art. We filmed it, and it was very personal and dear to my heart. And it was in relevance to slavery. So it was very difficult for me to finish editing it. So I put it aside, and then 2020 began, and I was working on my business website, and just the little wins, like finish the website, it's up, it's running, it's going really well. And then COVID hit, and we were getting ready to work on some film art outside and shoot some couple of really great projects. And COVID hit, and that shut everything down. And it, even through that time of like taking a month off, because I only got a month, taking a month off and being at home, I didn't rest. I was always busy working on the website or working on a project or working on something, but I just felt drained and I felt exhausted. And to create and not be able to, because my field is more hands-on. I'm not a writer. I'm not the director. I'm not the producer. I can produce and I can direct, but it requires being on a set. It requires being around other people. It requires being in the field. And when you can't get in the field, it's exhausting to just kind of sit and try to stay creative and try to keep your hope up. But I'm like, okay, I noticed COVID was bringing people together and people were caring about each other, and that was making me feel emotionally as a humanitarian, because I feel a lot about people. It was making me feel better about the situation and the circumstance. And then as we came to possible phase one of COVID, of the city opening, everybody's getting ready to come back out, I was like, a new hope. This is going to be great. People are going to really, because this has really brought people together. People are really going to be different. And then that whole thing went down with George Floyd, and my spirit, in my hope, in my energy was crushed. And I'm not speaking for all African American people, but there is a census out there. And what I'm noticing now that is starting to rise up my creative energy is I want to go back and I want to finish editing my project. I want to finish telling that story. And I'm noticing that a lot of my non-African American friends are very much excited or on fire about what's happening, and I encourage them to keep that fire in their belly. Don't let time pass where they just absolutely decide to go back to the way it was or what's comfortable or familiar, because it's going to take a great change. It's going to take a great uprising of people to just say, I want to change this. And that's art. That's something you can write about, that's something that a story or a film can get made from, information can come out of it that can change the way that we do our art. And so that in itself inspires my creativity. It helps me to see things not so dark, because I've been Black my whole life and it's been dark. There are dark days growing up as a child, turning into a teenager, marrying a white man, having children that are mixed, and divorcing, and watching the stares and the looks from people around you in your community, and the talk of you'll never be anything, you'll never make it because of your skin color. It's like taking all that negative, all that dark, and pushing it down and just saying, I'm going to rise up among what everyone thinks. Yeah, this moment now has been the hardest blow to me emotionally, but I encourage people to continue to stay on target for change. Stay on target for something to become better, because it can't continue like this. It cannot. So creatively, yeah, I'm inspired by taking the negative and making it a positive. That's what's inspiring me.
Ben, I've got some good questions coming in from chat here. They're kind of related, so I'll just throw them out there. These are from Heather. How do we recruit people of color into our new writers into the green room that are people of color? What are the stories and films that audiences who are people of color most want to make and most want to be seen? How can we better elevate our artists of color to leadership positions across the Seattle film community?
Those are beautiful questions. And, thank you, Trina, for speaking from your heart. I'm gonna I'm gonna probably butcher this, but I wanna speak for a certain group of, like you said, I can't speak for all white people, but I'm gonna speak for a group of white people who, up to this day, we've always believed in equality, whether it's race, whether it's gender, sexuality. But what I'm dealing with, I'm gonna just say that, is George Floyd and the recent stir has really pulled back the veil to show, oh, you thought you were helping and you thought you believed in equality, but where have you been? We've all discussed this. Like, where have you been? Because this has been going on and you've been sitting in your silence. And so there's a little bit of guilt there. Not a little bit, there's a lot of bit of guilt there. And then we want to rush forward, like you were saying, we want to be the cavalry. We're here. And then we're looking at you guys and saying, so how do we help? But that's stupid, because you guys are completely exhausted right now and you don't need to tell us how to help. We just need to help in the way that we can, and we need to keep the pressure on. And that's the point of this conversation, is how do we not make, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, how do we not make this the white fat of the week? And how do we keep pushing forward to support? And I look at Heather's questions, and that's where I want us to dive right now. Like, especially with everything that's going on, we know what a convention looks like. We know what a film festival looks like, but we have an obligation to do more than just a 2-day event. Like, where do we go from here? And the unfortunate fact is, it is a numbers game, right? There's just simply a lot more white people in the entertainment than there is people of color. And a lot of that comes down to that systematic training that is there. Like, the white people get more opportunities. They just do. It's an easier path to go to college, to go through the getting experience on jobs. And the road for people of color is, it's not like the highway. It's the gravel road that they have to sometimes stop and put a tree off of the road. And so how do we start with our incremental changes? And I'm going to start there by talking about last year's programming and the year before that. We've got women in film, we've got women's panels, and we've got we've got the native voices, and we're doing our best, but how do we put the gas pedal on that? I know that was a real long rant to throw to you guys.
So maybe part of it is to adopt a new mindset about the summit itself. I mean, literally name it a new day in film or something like that, where we our mission for this year is to actually broaden everything that we do with what's happening in society in mind, because I would bring in the Me Too movement, because that just really happened last year. I mean, the ground is shifting under our feet. And as the oldest member of this team, I went to college in the 70s. So I dated a black man back there, thought I was going to marry him, and thought that all of this had changed. Sorry, that's my phone. Thought we had gone through all of this hardships and pain back then with the civil rights movement, and things seemed to be moving forward. And then when Obama decided to run for president, we just saw an ugly part of our country rise up. And I remember thinking, where did this come from? Where have these people been hiding all this time? And not realizing that they had been pushed down and lived under the radar from back when I was in college, festering and blistering, and their anger boiling up, and all of a sudden they were given license to blow up, basically. And it's been happening now since then. And I feel like the George Floyd thing finally just boiled over, thankfully. And I think I agree with you, Ben. I think we need to use this time as an opportunity to develop a platform that is able to explore that, not exploit it, but use it in a way that could create positive things going forward. So how do we do that? I'm not sure. I think people are tired of conversations. I'm not sure having a panel on, getting more diversity in film is necessarily the route. But again, if we adopt, a new day in film, or whatever that tagline becomes, and we operate from that core, I think we'll come up with some good ideas.
Ben, from my standpoint, I run a nonprofit that teaches kids video production here locally in the Seattle area and all throughout LA. But I see a lot of people in chat right now that are talking about the importance of reaching out to the students. The students that are there, you got to get them started at a young age. And if we look at the makeup of schools just in Seattle School District alone, as well as the community surrounding, there's plenty of opportunity to reach these diverse students, give them the tools and resources. So I guess the question back to you is, how do they participate in the film community as a whole, but is there anything we can do specifically with Seattle Film Summit to engage these students where they are and give them an opportunity to feel part of the community?
It's a great question. I'm gonna go back just real quick to Heather's question about leadership. Over the last few days, I've been reaching out to a lot of my friends, Trina included. We had this conversation, and the small circle of, let's just call it, Black influencers in our Seattle film community, and I can name a few of them right now. Like we all are aware of Nike Imuru, or Kola Malik, or Abby. Just speaking to them lately, I realized, oh my God, like these are the leaders in our community. And I'm just curious, Trina, like how do we provide a better platform for leaders of color in our community? Like, is it just speaking to Lynn's point, like panel's not enough. Is it a mentorship program? Do we build scholarships, create lanes on in our film projects? I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it.
Again, I don't speak for every Black person, but it would be nice. It would be nice to like be more publicized, more supported publicly, to say, yeah, let's do that idea. Let's run with that. Let's open up that gate and let our African-American leaders in, instead of, I heard the saddest thing with all this going on. Our president has not invited any African-American leaders to come into the White House to sit down and talk about what's going on, this uproar. And so, but because he's publicized and televised, all of his flaws get captured. But what about the ones who are in those positions of authority and power and ability, but they're not doing it either. They're not inviting the leaders to come in and talk and sit down and create change. They are just like, as long as nobody's pushing my button or asking me to do this, it's comfortable. So I think that what you did the other day with that group, talking with them, more of that, more talks like that, more setting up classes, opening up a time where, yeah, we want to hear from the Black voices. We want to hear, what do they have to say? What do our art leaders have to say? Because there's a lot of us out there in the community, but not a lot of people know about who we are. They don't know who we are. They don't know how we feel. I was given the opportunity to create a festival for African-American kids, which is what Todd was talking about, where we are going to teach them about filmmaking and how to operate a camera, and what is it like, the power of being able to tell your story through film. And it's just a matter of now, like, funding. We got to find the funds. We got to find this, we got the space, but we got to find the funds, and we got to meet the kids where they're at. I remember working for Urban Family Center, and they would always say, you can't teach a kid to do something, or you can't tell a person to do something, and all they're thinking about is, gee, my stomach is growling, or I wonder if dad's coming home tonight, or will mom be there when I get there? They're not focused on what we're talking about. They're focused on their life issues. And I think if we can find a way to raise the living bar, then we can pull in their interest. We always want to go into, let's teach and educate, and this and this and this. Oh, look, they're lazy. They're not paying any attention because they're hungry. Their life focus right now is something greater than what we've ever had to deal with. And I met those kids and worked with them. And then once we met their essential need, then they were able to learn. Then they were able to benefit. But until then, it's always going back to square one and like raising the bar. Like you said, the road we travel, it isn't paved nicely. There isn't sunshine. It's gravel, and there's a tree on the road, and there's a pothole, and there's always somebody who grabs you and pulls you back, and oh, you got to go to the start line again. You can't advance to the finish line because you filed on something, so you got to go back to the beginning, and we got to start over and start over and start over. And by that time we're 50, 60, 70, can't run as fast anymore. We're broken down. Our will is kind of broken, or we're just I don't know, it's just, there's the playing field is so not fair. It's so not fair. And the only way to do that is when enough people rise up and care enough. Like, that's how they ended apartheid in Africa, is that the people had enough, and the chaos was enough, and they all rose up together, and they all cared enough together that apartheid ended.
So what if we created, we have several contests as part of the I don't know why I'm sounding weird. Anyway, is there an opportunity to do a diversity project as part of the summit? Either a screenplay writing contest that deals with diversity, or a film documentary. Could we get funding as an award for, best documentary that deals with diversity? Coming from the nonprofit world, Trina, I relate so much to what you said, because it's not even just the Black community. The homeless people, period. Homeless kids who are sleeping in a car, have real trouble focusing on their homework and
Yeah.
coming into class and actually, operating at peak performance. Um, so I don't know, maybe, but is there something through the film summit that we can do um, to elevate the filmmaking to diversity?
There's a lot of those big corporations out there giving millions of dollars to continue education, or supporting people who are about being culturally aware, or systematic change. And I was like, is there a way we can apply, or say, hey, we'd like to get some of that money so we can support our community that we work with here, to encourage them to grow and have a different outcome? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
I agree. And I think that because we're the film industry, and the summit has quite a few people, name recognition people attached to it, we have an opportunity that maybe we really could, as a result of the film summit, end up making a film, a documentary style or a docu-series or something that really addresses this, and addresses it more from the point of view of what you were saying, Trina. I think people can, it's really hard. Ben started out by saying, having another white conversation. And I told him I'm part of an executive directors group of nonprofits. And I was on a Zoom call with them on Friday. And one of our African-American executive directors made the comment that all the rest of us were white, and the fact that we were having this open and heartfelt conversation was a luxury for us. She was living it every day. And that just hit home to me, that talking about what we ought to be doing must hit home with our Black friends and neighbors in such a way that we can't even understand. And so we have to find a way to get beyond that and really become part of the solution. So anyway, I hear you, Trina.
Mm.
Chad, you're muted.
Look at that technology. I love it. That extends to the programming side. What we can all sit here and say, oh, we've got 2020 planned. We're going to have some great sessions. No, we are all struggling with what we're going to do, if we're going to do anything at all. That question has come up with us. Are we going to do something in 2020? And the reason why it came up is because we are just being pummeled with stuff. Not just us, all of us. And it's stuff at home, it's stuff in our day jobs, it's stuff in our creative worlds. And we're not, there are no solid, true answers out there for any of this. And we're looking for, beyond this group that you see on the screens here, for guidance and help and suggestions and ideas to lift up our entire community of creatives, to broaden those opportunities that Trina talks about. Those are opportunities that for some of us don't ever seem to have any barriers, while others, that's all they face are barriers. And if we can find a way to remove those barriers in just a few areas, we've made some steps forward. And that's what I think part of this conversation is about, is reaching out to our fellow creatives in this community and saying, what are we not seeing here? What are we missing? Trina's stories that she just shared with us are stories that are happening probably as we speak. in this session right here. What can we do? What can all of us do to start to remove some of those barriers for folks?
Hey, Todd, could you post into the YouTube chat that little survey that we whipped up? You
Yeah,
still
that's
have it?
been posted, and we'll
Okay.
keep posting that.
And I don't believe that any of those are required filled. So just for those of you who are listening, please just fill in what you want to fill in. You know, I think of all of this, and I'm absorbing what everybody's saying, and I know before looking through a previous lens when I got into this industry, and again, it's one of the reasons we started this summit, and it was all I was really surprised about the lack of mentorship. And at first I thought it was just the Northwest, and it makes sense, right? And I like to use the medieval kingdom analogy. Like if you're this medieval kingdom and all the crops are dry, AKA you have no resources, then you close the gates and you take care of your own within the gates, and you're not generous, and you're not teaching other people how to make crops and giving them your food because it's just common sense. You want to survive. But but in those seasons where the crops are good or the resources are open, you open those gates and you welcome people in and you teach them, and it's more of a community. And I've always felt, at least since I've been in the part of the film industry in the Northwest, is that there's been a lack of mentorship uh, because we don't have a lot of work here, right? So
Right.
why are you going to go train somebody to take your job that you're barely making it on? And now I see that with a different lens, right? Like I was complaining as the man, as the patriarchy, like fuck, I can't even get a job, or I can't get these people to train me, to teach me. So I can only imagine the layer beyond that. But it's not just within our circle. I'm looking through these chats, like what Heather's saying, and Deb, and even Denise. It's resources. We're still in famine here because the larger organizations, the ones that can really be seeding us with an ability to mentor and train, are not putting their eyes on film or storytellers in the Northwest. But it's greater than that, right? Like countries don't support their artists. So it's like this, like we're bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, but we need those resources. And at the very least, if we don't have those resources, how do we inspire people to mentor? And then on the mentor subject, and I'm just speaking frankly here, like I would love to mentor people, but you know what, Trina, be honest, like as like a, let's say a 16-year-old Black student who wants to get into filmmaking, does he really want to be mentored by a bunch of white people? You know, like how do we mentor and cross collaborate? That's the onion I want to unpeel there.
It's about the caring. It always boils down to caring. When I worked, like I said, in Urban Family Center, those kids did not know me from Adam. And they weren't all Black. There was, Spanish kids, and there was, white kids, poor white kids. They were like, does she care? Do you really care about me? So it's like at the end of program, I'd walk them home. I'd meet their mom. I'd be like, hey, you got everything you need? If you don't, come down to the office and we'll hook you up. Just, I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want to help. And when you show people that you care, it's like again, like I said about the chaos that was in the streets in Africa during apartheid. When the Africans rose up together as one united force, it wasn't just Black people who rose, it was the white ones as well. And they were like, apartheid has to end. And they showed that they cared. And that brought a great movement, and it brought a great change. And if we rise up and show that we care, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. If you're mentoring a little Mexican kid or a Black kid and your skin is white or your skin is you know, dark chocolate brown or light, like my kids are very light complected. The message is, do you care about me? If you care about me, I'm happy to be mentored by you. But if you don't care about me and I can feel it, I can sense it, yeah, you're just like all the rest then. You're like all the others out there who are talking because you want to make yourself go to sleep at night. You want to feel good and pat yourself on the back at the end of the year and say, I got a tax write-off because I cared about a little brown-skinned child. You know, it's got to come from a place of being real. It's got to come from your heart. And I mean, I remember when I first got introduced to art, it was a white lady, dark hair, dark curly hair, glasses. She came to my elementary school. This is how little I was. She came to my elementary school and she showed us how to play African drums. I'm like, okay, this white lady's teaching me how to play African drums. Okay, and she's good. And she was all about rhythm and the beat. And then she's like, we're gonna put on a show on the stage at the school. You invite your parents and we're gonna show them what you've been working on. And it was the moment that moment changed my life. It changed my life. And I was like, I wanna do art. I wanna tell a story and I don't have to talk. I can tell a story physically by moving and I can do it with music. And it doesn't matter who wants to teach me as long as they care about teaching me. That's it. That's what I gotta say. So I think if we care about people, it will make a difference. If we don't care, we're just doing it to get from one means to another, or the means to an end, or of something that's selfish for ourselves. Yeah, it's gonna read. Kids are very perceptive. They're gonna pick it up. They read right through the BS.
Marissa, I want you to talk. And I want
Yes.
I've known you since college when you graduated.
Yeah.
I was at your, what was it? Not adjudication,
Our
but
portfolio review. That was like in what, 2014?
portfolio review.
Yeah,
2014. And
back in the day.
as a Japanese American woman and a
Yeah.
student in your journey up till now, I'd love to just get some of your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Kent, Washington, which is predominantly white, the suburbs, and kind of just like, so me growing up in that community, I never really saw myself any different. I never really encountered a lot of, racial things towards myself. Maybe that's just because I'm a woman. I don't know. Um, and then growing up, going to college and now going to all these pilgrimages. So I've been kind of helping out, and we started this program called the Japanese American Memorial Pilgrimages, which is traveling to different, to all the camps, the incarceration camps, and filming and documenting those who were incarcerated and then the intergenerational trauma that comes along with it. So it's like really inspired me to look at my roots and where I kind of came from, but then also to like show that we just keep like oppressing people and doing the wrong thing. And like after World War II, then like when 9/11 happened, we were just doing the same thing to the Muslim community. So it's just like these things keep happening. So like I wanted to be kind of like speak on behalf of the Japanese American community, being a fourth generation Japanese American, and like making sure that our voices are told by our people rather than other cultures. Because that's what I've just been kind of noticing, especially with like a lot of the documentaries. So me and my partner, Kimiko Mar, we decided to travel to all of the internment camps and film there. And we got a grant from the National Park Service to put this documentary series together. You can find us on jampilgrimages.com. We started that, and we're just trying to encourage people to talk about, where you came from, your legacy. And yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing, at least in that part. But I feel like as like with the platform that we've created with the Seattle Film Summit, I feel like, we can create this community that changes everything and changes like almost your perspective on what's like going on. but being able to give other people and minorities a chance to speak and be heard, and a chance for just different storytelling. And I think, we're starting to like slowly see it in like Hollywood and on like in television, but I think it's like really light. Like I think what they cover is like a really like overall like lighter topic. Like we hit the points, but we don't hit it like in like a deep I don't know. I don't feel like that we just don't express it enough. Like that we should, and be telling our stories in maybe like our voice, if that makes sense. But yeah, but I think it's changing. I mean, we're getting there. Yeah, that's kind of what's been going
Well,
on. But
I'd also like us as a team to be thinking again outside the box of like, we've come up with this platform, FTV. How do we use this too? I know that people are talking about workshops in the chat. Do we have our episodes and then have break-off rooms after it's a small educational class? Let me be clear. I don't feel like it's also a one-way street, like giving people of color more opportunities. I'm sorry, but we as white people, we need to be educated. Like we need to be educated about how we interact with our friends and family, the way we create art, the way we listen to other people's voices, because we can only live the life we've been taught, right? And I know that needs to be changed for us. I just know that the few perspectives that have hit me in the last fucking 10 days, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be cussing, but I don't care. And I'm just scratching the surface. How do I enlighten, or, we've been using the term woke, and I know that people get annoyed by that term, but I think that needs to be built into whatever we're doing too, the platform of what we're building.
The mystery books that I write, that I have a series that's my most popular series that's set on Mercer Island. It's called The Old Maids of Mercer Island. And because of my background in the nonprofit world, I decided with the very first book when you write mysteries, you have to create a mystery, right? You have to create a reason why somebody gets killed and then solve it. And I wanted to use a social problem as the basis of the mystery. And so I did. I used black market adoption and um, sex slavery, and which is something I just hate. And then at the end of the book, because I had done a bunch of research on it, I had a whole section written by me as the author about how people could get involved if this was something that bothered them. And then I decided I did it with the second book. Second book was child abuse. Third book was mental health. Fourth book was bullying. And I can't tell you the number of fans that have read my books that have complimented me on that appreciate the fact that I wove into the story a social problem and then I tried to address it at the end. And maybe there's a way that we as creatives could do more of that through film, so that it's obviously people are reading my books because of the mystery. They're a mystery fan, right? So I'm not knocking them over the head with talking about child abuse, but it's very clear when you read the book that there's an underlying message. So I'm just wondering if there's a way for us, as the film summit, again, to go back to our roots and say we have to create a basis for how we operate, that then becomes organic to everything that we do. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. I keep going back to what Trina was talking about, which is a really powerful point, just about caring. How do we teach people to care? Karen,
I feel like it's already happening.
Yeah.
I yesterday when I left work and went home, they were starting a really peaceful march right in my backyard. They weren't in downtown Seattle. They weren't in some, public area. They were like in my backyard, and it was a group of them, large crowd. They walked down 8th Avenue and down, I think it was 100, down into White Center, and then just back up Roxbury, just peacefully with signs. And they were just saying, Black Lives Matter. And no offense, I've kind of been offended because people are like, why are you going on about Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. I'm like, okay, so Black Lives Matter because, and yes, it's true, all lives matter. Black Lives Matter because we're endangered. They're killing us more frequently and getting away with it, and it's being okay. For example, I just read today the police officer who killed him is out on bail. And I'm like, wow, let that be one of my Black brothers killing someone. He wouldn't see bail. Bail would be so astronomically high, he'd still be in jail.
Just to clarify, it's not the guy who put his knee on the neck. It's one of the other. It's a rookie cop. It's one of the other three that didn't do anything about it. But
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Come on. It just, okay, so that's why Black Lives Matter, because we're dying and we need to bring that awareness. And as they walked, and I could hear them shouting, why are we here? And they're saying, Black Lives Matter. What do we want? Black Lives Matter. And it was like, it was very emotional. I'm like trying to drive, and my daughter was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm feeling really emotional because I am seeing so many. It was a large crowd of mixed race and color, and they're all caring, and they're all walking together, and they're all holding the sign, and all those signs say Black Lives Matter. When I go out, the day before, when I go out on the street, 2 white people, young, and I swear to God, I think they're in their 20s, 20, 25 at the oldest. He's on one corner, she's on the other corner, white, holding signs with their mask on that say Black Lives Matter. And just standing there, and people are driving by and honking. And I was like, okay, if we get enough awareness and enough people caring, we can change this. We can bring in, everybody can have a chance to do their art and tell their story and be recognized and identified. And, I was reading something too that said Hollywood needs to use their platform and they have this wonderful platform. Hollywood has this powerful platform. When the NFL shut down, when the basketball teams shut down because of COVID, people were like, oh, this is real. This is real. Everybody's shutting down. And that was the beauty about COVID, is that with COVID, it didn't pick and choose color. It didn't pick and choose economic race, economic status. Sick, actors were getting sick. Doctors are getting sick. Elderly are getting sick. Children were getting sick. The famous were getting sick. The non-famous were getting sick. It didn't pick and choose. And that, again, was that energy, that bond that was bringing America together. People were really worried and sending out, words of like, we care about you, and we wish you the best. And like, people were going outside at 7 o'clock and banging on pots and pans to thank the frontline, essential worker for putting their life on the line and going out there and taking care of the sick. So it's like we were starting to gel together. There was an awareness and a caring, a community that was starting to happen while we were in our home. And then we created Filling the Void because of it. It's like we care. So it's not like it's not there. It's not like it's not there. It just needs that spark. It needs that thing that takes people out of being comfortable and cushy and prompts them to like stand up, wake up, take a stand, stay awake, don't go back to sleep, because we need to start caring for one another. I mean, the commercials, the Hollywood's commercials were amazing. You know, I'm just like, okay, we have such power. Why are we not using it to support one another in a proper way?
But I think when you said we need to educate and teach people, the reality is that there's been tons of education about diversity for decades. And unfortunately, it's just basically talking at people. And I think one of the reasons that the George Floyd thing resonated so much across the world, it's not even just across this country, was, first of all, it was a young girl who was threatened by the police to be tasered, who filmed it, and she stuck to her guns, and I think she's a teenager, and she filmed it, and that played around the world, with a guy's knee on his neck, and George Floyd calling for his mother. And there was a meme on Facebook today of a woman carrying a sign that when he called for his mother, that was a call to action to every mother in the country, which I just thought was wonderful. And so much of how we learn is what we experience. And I mean, if you think back to the LGBT movement, Dick Cheney was totally against it until one of his kids came out as gay. So, you know, that's the reality is that so much of us, we learn by either visual, auditory, or tactile measures. And everybody learns in a different way. And so again, I think that if we're going to talk about teaching people, we have to think through, especially with film, how we can use film not to teach people, but to illustrate the problem in an experiential way that becomes a visceral reaction, and people change because of it.
So we're in a very transformative time in our lives right now. And for, I think many would say too long, we've looked at these things that have come up in the past and said, oh, that's terrible. We need to do something.
Right.
We have to get past that point of just looking at it and saying we need to do something. This is a time for action. So as creatives, the question is, what do we do? Wish I had an answer. But I think we need to take this conversation beyond just the, oh, that's terrible over, look what's happening over there, that's terrible, and actually go over there and see what we can do.
And for me, there's two parts of the conversation that have been brought up, and one's kind of been swept under the rug. Obviously, the George Floyd was one of many incidents that has happened, but we have this central thesis of this problem of policing that is not going to go away regardless of who wins the presidential election in November. And Democrats have been in control for years. There's still been this issue, right? Whether it's Republican or Democrat. So how do we address that fundamental issue that, you know, people can still have this job if you'd be fired from McDonald's if you had 25 complaints against you, but you can still walk the beat potentially as an officer. So how do we influence our elected officials to make that happen, and what role can film and entertainment have in that, you know, in that conversation?
Us to have the strongest storytellers, right? We have to be the voices of education. Well, we're at 105. We're at the end of this episode. I'd love to just hear any final thoughts go around the room, if any of you do have final thoughts, and then we can close this conversation out for today. But the conversation does not end today, honestly.
So I have a comment to make because I spend my life messaging. I heard ex-police chief talk this morning. I forget where he was from, but he had completely reimagined his police department. And the whole let's defund the police concept is not apparently meant to take money away from them. It's meant to rethink them and to reimagine police departments. And this guy had done it 7 years ago. Then apparently it was very, very successful. Their arrest rate and murder rate has gone down. And what struck me from a messaging point of view was they deconstructed their police department and taught their police officers that they were not warriors, which we teach our policemen to be. They were guardians. And the concept was, you're not going out to beat heads in and to arrest people. You are going out into the community as a connector and as a facilitator, and to talk to people, and apparently just reimagining, rewriting that message from warrior to guardian has really made a difference in that community. So, I just throw that out there as maybe that's something that we as creatives can embody as well.
Any last thoughts, my friends?
I would like to open that opportunity for film to be offered to a lot of young kids in all schools, in all areas, so that they all have that opportunity to express themselves artistically, because they have a chance to change the world that they're about to live in. I mean, when we're long and gone, they're going to be here. They're going to be the ones left cleaning up our mess, or they're going to be the ones left continuing the mess. And we want to, it really does begin with the children. The children are the future. They are the ones. And I think about my grandchildren, and I think about my children. And I even was thinking about my grandma when she was thinking about me being a part of the change in the 70s when we were growing up. And, she's like, oh, your life's going to be a lot different than what it was when I was a kid growing up, and you're going to see change. And now living now in this time, I look at my children and I'm like, okay, the weight of change is on your shoulders, because we did a little something, but we didn't do a lot. And really hoping that you guys can change this world, change it for something beautiful and better. But we as leaders, we as the older generation, have to open up the doors and say, come on in, this opportunity is for everyone. That's what I would like to do with our summit. That's what I would like to offer. We already invite schools to come in to this film summit. We should invite, South End schools, East End schools, West End schools to come on in and enjoy this. If you are a student, you're interested in learning more about film and meeting, and come on in.
Well, I want to thank all of you on the screen and Todd, the voice of Todd. I know that this was a uncomfortable conversation to be having on YouTube, but I also believe it's a conversation that every organization and every team needs to be having. So I appreciate you guys being brave enough to have this conversation with me. To our audience, you have that survey link. Please know we're forging forward into this brave new world with you guys, and we need your help and we need your insight. And let's change the world for our children. And I don't mean that just as a joke. Like, I want to be able, as a grandparent in my dying bed, to tell my children, we were the ones that planted the flag and said, here and no further. So let's start doing that through our creative channels. And if you're a film organization or just somebody in the industry or a creative, please know that your opinion counts to us. So that's all I have, my friends. So thank you. Good night. Good day. We'll talk soon.
Good night.